Hi everyone, this is Rebecca, and as always, I'm here to support you as you bring seeking to completion and have freedom from the self-improvement trap. So today what I'd like to address, and it really sort of follows on one of the things we've dealt with recently, the difference between thinking about something and experiencing something. So it makes all the difference in the world between your understanding of something being at a mental or intellectual level and you actually having an experience of it. So I'll give you another example, and this really also touches on why it's so important to address whatever it is that you're feeling, whether you realize at first that you're feeling it or not, or especially once you realize that you're feeling it, to know that there's no substitute for dealing with what you're feeling so that your experience actually shifts. There's no amount of intellectual understanding that will substitute for that. So I've given birth twice to two wonderful children who aren't really children anymore. And so the first time, this was many years ago, it was before I underwent a lot of the things that I've gone through and opened up to. So in that first experience, I knew while I was pregnant that I was terrified. I knew that. I was just, everything about the whole process made me very fearful. And so the way I addressed that at that time was I had a stack of books like you wouldn't believe. I practically could have been a midwife or something myself. My degree was already in biology, but I went through and educated myself to everything about the birth process and educated myself to everything about what was faulty also about the current medical model as it stands in the United States. So I had lots of information. I was very, awakened to many facts that lots of people don't know. Probably people didn't want to be around me for months because my main topic of conversation would be, did you know, would you believe that, whatever. And it was information that on one hand was important because I didn't have it before. But the bottom line was that since I was still fearful, none of that information actually helped me. That was all happening at a mental level, at an intellectual level. So my experience didn't change, okay? And I recognized part of that even at the time, even though at the time I didn't really know what to do with it. Like I said, this is many years ago before a lot of things changed for me. So an example of that, sometimes people would have heard that I was planning to have a natural birth. And they would say, oh, you're so brave to have a natural birth. And I would correct them even then to say, no, I'm not brave. I'm just much more afraid of somebody sticking a needle in my spine. So, but yet at that time, I didn't know how to resolve that fear for myself. So the way that my experience went at that time was we both almost died. It was a really traumatic thing. I ended up at a hospital with lots of intervention, and everything was fine down the road and wonderful down the road, and it's fine now. But when I contrast that with the difference in my experience the second time around, when instead of just thinking I was going to arm myself with all of this intellectual knowledge and lots of things that other people weren't aware of and all this stuff, and instead really, really went beyond my fear, that's when things completely changed. And so that experience was then completely different. Even though on the surface, some of it looked like what I might have tried to avoid the first time around. So the question is all about what your motivation underneath for anything is. So if you're choosing something and that choice isn't free and clear, that choice is to avoid something else, then it's not the same as if you choose that same thing just because you choose it, rather than in order to try to avoid something else. So the second time around, The midwife who I wanted to use, who was a different midwife than I had the first time, she wasn't doing home births at the time. She was just having privileges at a hospital. But then we were able to change some of what the standards were, right? So, and that was fine for me. And I went there, it all went very smooth and very easy. I didn't have the usual interventions because I was under her care. And it was smooth, it was wonderful. It all went very quickly and very beautifully and was fantastic. So in your experience, it makes all the difference in the world of, are you actually dealing with whatever you're feeling? So for example, fear, and really moving beyond that fear? Or are you just spending a lot of intellectual and mental energy finding out more ideas and finding out more concepts? And oftentimes those are actually serving to continue to feed that fear rather than resolve it. So, and again, there's nothing wrong with knowing things or understanding things, but you have to recognize the level that that's occurring at and recognize that that's not what's going to shift your experience. Okay? So the same goes for anything. It goes for fear, anger, you name it. Okay? So I invite you to really explore that, play around with it, see what it is in your life maybe that you've become an expert about that serves as kind of a hiding place for you to really, really dig in deep and truly shift your experience and truly move deeper and deeper into the love and peace and joy that's always available to you. Okay? So have fun with that. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.